This is the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Good Wednesday evening. Welcome to the High School Fan Zone. I am back after not taking a night off. I went and covered some volleyball. I got more volleyball in last night than I have in a while. I've got my volleyball fixed. You guys, Drew, are you a volleyball fan?
Yeah, I've got two sisters that play volleyball.
Okay.
So we've got almost every night of the week got volleyball.
Right. We're jumping into the Tiger Fan Zone with Jay Northcutt, and I didn't even introduce him. Drew Cox, their very solid kicker. Coach and I have talked about this. I don't know that Lubbock's ever had two kickers at the same time that are as good as you and Cub, because you guys are, knock on wood again, pretty automatic when you go out there for extra points. And we're going to talk a little bit about something else you're good at here in a minute. Who are your sisters?
So Brooklyn and Morgan, and they're both one's at Terra Vista right now, and one's a sophomore at Friendship. So
you need
she's
to come and sit with me and explain volleyball to me, because after 6 years, I've learned. Randy True helped teach me. Amy Mangum's helped. A lot of the coaches have kind of educated me, but I still am not 100% positive what I'm watching. And Jay, you've had daughters.
I'm right
play.
there with you. I had some daughters that played for a while, and I never completely understood everything, especially the subbing piece and the rotation.
And they pay very close attention to it.
Very close, yeah.
The thing I love about volleyball, though, is there's energy, there's athleticism, and those girls celebrate everything.
They do,
If as football coaches, if you could get your guys that juiced up every play, it'd be kind of weird to watch, but man, they get excited about everything.
Yeah, they have to practice their celebrations for sure.
And there's some good ones.
There are some.
Your girl, I saw a video clip of your girls pregame doing some sort of line dance the other day. And
whatever works.
Introductions or what it was, but
got their minds right for the game.
And Amy's pretty old school. I can't imagine she's teaching a lot of line dancing, so that's got to be something that the girls.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask her maybe.
Or maybe you can get Roboto to teach his defensive guys to do some dancing or something.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk football now before we get too far down the rabbit hole. This every once in a while, me and some of the coaches start talking about weird stuff. And
it's great. It's great.
I promise we'll talk about football. Friendship, this is a big week. I talked to Jay earlier this week for a podcast about just how big a week this is. I've already marked off an awful lot of things on their list. You guys are tied for a district championship for sure. You're the number one seed out of District 2-6A. You got a home playoff game. One more thing that I think kind of puts the cherry on top, Drew, and that's winning that outright district championship. And I talked to a couple of your teammates. I talked to Coach, so I'll get your perspective. How cool would that be to be able to, as Grayson Page said, to have that trophy all to yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely a big thing to do at Friendship. Like I said, I think that will be our first outright. And Coach has been talking about this week running the table, and that's just going undefeated. Really just the word is domination throughout the district, and that's a cool thing that not every team gets the chance to do. So giving the chance and the opportunity to do that this Friday is going to be a great opportunity to have, and I truly think we're going to make the most of it.
That doesn't happen very often in your district, period. I know Legacy maybe did it a few years ago, but it's usually been a co-share the last couple of years. Am I right about that?
No, I think that's a pretty fair, thing to say for sure. I know last year at one point we had a possibility of having a five-way tie, and then several of us ended up tied. 3 of us ended up tied, for those 4 spots. Not all 4, but definitely a competitive district to say the least.
I'm trying to I think maybe in the 6 years I've had my website, maybe one time Legacy went unscathed, but and I would almost guarantee you go back to the history of the little Southwest Conference, that hadn't happened very much because of those teams. You'd have Midland lead that back then and Odessa Permian. Somebody's going to knock each other off.
Oh, for sure, because each one of those games is really a rivalry game, and I think
you guys have become a rivalry for just about everybody. They like to beat Friendship, Drew. Yeah. I know you hear that.
Yeah, Coach is talking about that. Like, we've always got a target on our back, and I think that's one of the things that is a good thing to have, and just a different feeling from the past few years. But having that this season has been great.
So Coach and I have some common friends that live in Midland. They have a player that plays for Midland High, and I've heard for the last 3 years, man, we got to beat Friendship. We got to get up there and beat Friendship, and that's Midland High. That's a team that's come on the last couple of years, but for a while there wasn't. So you think about them wanting to beat you. Those Permian and Legacy folks really like to beat you.
Yeah, I think it's like Coach said, it's one of the most, if not the most competitive district in Texas football. Just like last year, there was like a 3-way tie for second or third or something like that. I don't know, but just always it just shows that every game counts and every game can go either way. It's just who's gonna be big on those just few moments.
And kickers are important.
Yeah. You got one shot out there, so you gotta make the most of that. It's definitely a different perspective than every other.
You kicked the game winner against Permian last year.
Yes, sir.
Have you had to kick a game winner since then? Like at the end, I mean.
No, I don't think we've kept them close, but never in that situation. So
we're going to talk about one of your other skills.
We do. He'll be ready. I know.
There we go. He's been there and done that. I love this time of year in Texas, West Texas. It may not be the same everywhere, but like Liberty's coming on later. Joe Sexton in their district. Estacato's won the district. They've done what you guys are trying to do. The other 4 teams are all could finish second or could miss the playoffs with 1 week left. That's how competitive. Yep. How much that means to people. I know people think the playoffs are watered down, and you can make that argument, but it still means something when you've got that many teams vying for it. In your district, you guys are going for undefeated, and I think everybody's the playoff teams have been decided, but there's a lot of jockeying left below you.
For the big school seeding, there is, especially, and some of that will be determined this week between some of those teams, for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You're playing actually one of the 2 teams that are out of the mix, and we'll talk more about that. You're playing in San Angelo, which their playoff hopes are gone, but that can be scary. You're facing a wounded animal with nothing to lose. So we're coming up on a break here. We'll be back on the High School Fan Zone to talk more about Friendship. The Tigers at home against San Angelo Central, 7 p.m. Friday on Double T 97.3 FM. That's Keith Patrick, Paul Tubbs, David Collier, and I think you guys will have to help me with their statistician, the senior golfer who helps
Braden
them. So
Tomlinson.
Braden,
I think.
He's an interesting young man. I met him a couple times. We'll be back to talk more about the Tigers this week on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Breaking down Friendship sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I'm going to run through this week's schedule. I imagine Choice did that last night, but we're going to do it just to get it out of the way. Thursday night, Monterey, another Thursday night game for Monterey. They go up to Amarillo to take on Caprock. That's on 93.7 The Eagle. The Plainsmen they're in the playoffs, and they're trying to clinch a share of the district championship for the first time since 2006 and would be the number 1 seed out of District 2 5A Division 1 if they can beat Caprock, which I think is 2-7, so Plainsmen have a good shot there. These Tigers, San Angelo Central, Double T 97.3 FM. Liberty goes on the road to Levelland, 93.1 Yes FM. I mentioned Liberty's. If they win, they're in the playoffs. If they lose, they've even got a shot to be in the playoffs, but they want to win and take care of business. Coronado and Lubbock High wrap up the season against each other, though they're both out of the playoff hunt. That is on 96.9 The Bull. And Idalou hosts Tulia on Sunny 97.7 FM. I haven't looked at their standings. Idalou's 7-2, and I'm going to guess that Idalou's playoff bound. Just doesn't take a lot of math to figure that out.
Yeah,
and plus, it's Idalou, and they're pretty good. So you heard me talking about everything that you guys have accomplished. To be a part of that, you're a senior, correct?
Yes, sir.
To be a part of that is one of the. How long senior night going to last? If I'm out there Friday, that's like
could be a little bit. Yeah, we've got 47 seniors.
Wow. Just football, or you do
that's just
everybody?
Football. That's just there's everybody, but there's 47 seniors that are just football, and I've got a couple managers. We've got 5 managers that are seniors, one of them being my daughter Brooke. So it's going to be
Dad's going to be emotional as a coach and a dad, because they
grow up quick. We all know that.
Coach and I both are two-time girl dads, but the baby, not that the older daughter doesn't. If my daughter's listening, I'll get kicked in the shins. Not that you don't love the older daughter, but when the baby one starts making those milestones, it gets a little tugs on the heartstrings a little bit. You beat Odessa Permian 44-27, which I told Coach this earlier, Drew. I know you don't want to dwell on it too much because you're still in the middle of things, but that's a pretty impressive win that when you're an old man, have your own daughters going through senior night, you can look back and say, man, that was a nice win when we went to Permian and went. As you're going through that the other night, and you got to kick 6 extra points. See, they kept you busy. You do get to do quite. You're a pretty busy kicker.
Yeah, almost every game we like to score quick.
Yep,
so
there we go. But going through it, when you guys are beating Permian, because Permian's, everybody knows who Odessa Permian is, Mojo and Rattler Stadium. How cool is that to be a part of a team that went down there and handled things the way you guys did?
Yeah, I think it's a super big part this year. Also, getting to do it 2 years in a row at Rat Lift under like the Friday night lights.
Yep,
is a definitely a different feeling. Cool to be really locked in on the road as well. 2 years in a row at that electric stadium. You know, they've got their lights going, off and on after they score. It's crazy atmosphere. But yeah, really coming together as a team and being locked in from the moment you step on the bus to the moment you step off the field when that final whistle blows. So really big achievement and definitely a memory that I'm going to have for a long time.
So this is what I keep saying that I want to talk to you about. You guys onside kick a lot.
Yeah.
And that's, a lot of people may not understand, there's some technique to that. There's some physics, there's some practice that goes into that. And I don't want you to give any secrets away, but how much time do you kind of focus on that, on knowing that's a big part of what you do for your team?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of times, and I don't really kind of just figure it out myself, just trying different techniques and stuff. So, but every day, get my reps in, get it to where I'm confident in it. And funny story about this with Coach Northcutt, it was sophomore year when I got pulled up to varsity just to kick onside kicks, and I remember kicking them, and I kicked one and didn't go how I wanted it to, and I was like, all right, it's just a bad kick. And I remember Coach Northcutt, he was saying, hey, try to kick it with your toe. And so I kicked it with my toe, and it didn't do what it was doing. He was like, all right, just do whatever you want. So then I changed it back to what I was doing.
Real good coaching, it sounded
like.
Yeah, right?
changed it back to what I was doing, and it worked. And then that first game, it worked out perfectly that game. Just thankful for that opportunity to just go out there and do one of those, just that fine craft.
There's little nuances. Now, do you even practice punting? Because you never punt during games.
Yeah, we really just don't punt a lot.
Drew's actually a really, really good punter. And, luckily, a lot of people don't know that. Lucky for the Tigers that they don't know that he's a really good punter. But he's a very, very good punter.
So, Drew, I'm a Chiefs fan.
A very good speaker, as you can tell.
I'm a Chiefs fan, and I'm glad that Tommy Townsend wasn't very well known the last couple of years because the Chiefs, the last few years he was, but for years people didn't know who he was because the Chiefs never punted. So we're going to talk more about kicking is football, so that's still football. We're going to talk a little bit more about San Angelo Central coming up for the Tigers, 7 p.m. Friday, People's Bank Stadium. I almost said Plains Capital. That's the wrong place. We'll be back on 100.7 The Score on the Tiger Fan Zone.
Bringing you the latest news from Friendship Athletics. This is the Tiger Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Tiger Fan Zone. I'm going to correct something real quick. Idalou plays Muleshoe. I don't want to get the people at Muleshoe mad at me. On Friday night in Idalou. Idalou is 3-0 in district. They're kind of like Friendship. They're trying to finish up I'm still wrong because they're playing Tulia in the playoffs. That's what it is. They're trying to finish up an undefeated district championship out there. You ever run across Johnny Taylor?
I do.
That's a legend there.
Yeah.
They've got their own version of Bobby Davis out there. He was out there for a long time.
Yeah,
and he runs the
icon of West Texas for sure.
He runs the All-Star game, doesn't he? And James Morton started that.
Sir.
So, well, Drew, we were talking a little bit about some of the different things you do. We could talk just about the records that you have, but the fact is you're very consistent. And I wasn't kidding that. I don't know that there's been You're always going to have a kicker or two in Lubbock. But the fact that you and Cub are here together, you guys you're like robotic in what you do. I know Coach doesn't have to worry about you score a touchdown. He's not, thinking, what should I do here? He knows he's got a weapon over there. How did you get to be that? Were you a soccer guy, or have you always been a football guy?
Yeah, so I've always been a soccer guy. My dad, put me into soccer when I was little, so played that all the way through, and then figured, it'll translate, which actually it doesn't that much. Kicking's a totally different game, but yeah, I think really the confidence and skill really instilled last year. Just putting more time in than I ever had before, and really seeing that improvement, and just having the confidence to go out there and just have that mindset of it's just another play in practice, or it's just another kick in practice, which I think is relatable to all positions on our team. Is Coach Northcutt always says, you're not going to rise to the occasion, you're going to fall back on your training. So we just keep that training level high, and then that way in the game it makes it so much easier.
So I'm about to talk to Taylor Bullen that plays basketball at Lubbock Cooper, and she's a shooter. Is kicking a little bit like shooting three-pointers? Is it just over and over again, just get the kind of the muscle memory used to what you need to do out there? Yeah,
I would say muscle memory is a big thing, because getting that muscle memory down so that way in the game, the pressure and any of those little things that happen between the snap and the hold, you can do your job and do the same job every time, so that way it's consistent.
Do you watch NFL games a lot?
I do. I watch a lot of the kicking, at least.
Kicking's amazing now, because I'm a little bit older than Coach, but when we played, the kicker lined up, it was like that little game where you used to smack the guy in the head and he just stood there and kicked it. Now you guys you're artists, and those guys in the NFL now, if they get to the 40, the offensive coach is starting to think, we may have 3 points here. It's incredible what they do. And that, not that you're not a muscular guy. I'm looking at your legs right here, which is a little creepy. I'm sorry. But you're not just thick with muscle. Where does the power come from as a kicker?
Yeah, so that's one of the big, I guess, mysteries that a lot of people ask. But it's really the technique and leg speed through that ball. It's not obviously muscle is going to help, but you look at guys like Jake Elliott in the pros. He's a small guy. His legs are, he's got some mass on him because he has that NFL training, but not comparable to any other position in football. And it's just all about that technique and contact point, and then leg speed through that football. So a little bit different than just all muscle.
Well, I'm a baseball guy too, and bat speed is a thing. A lot of people think that you have to be built like Jose Canseco was, with a little help, to hit the ball a long way, but you really don't. It's what you do with your bat speed when you meet the ball, and that's kind of the same physics that go into kicking.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate for that.
Probably didn't hurt that Drew has probably grown maybe 5 inches in the last 2 years. He wasn't as tall as a sophomore. How tall are you now, Drew? You're pretty tall.
Right now I'm about 6'3", and I think sophomore year I was just over maybe 5'9".
Yeah, so he's grown a ton.
So is growth in the legs, or your legs getting longer?
Definitely, yeah. That definitely helps with kind of like I relate to golf a lot, because it's kind of the same thing. Like the whip that you have on that club and on that follow through. So it definitely does help a little bit with that power.
So I'm not going to mention this young man's name, keep Coach out of trouble, but there was a kid that you told me a few years ago that went through that growth spurt, but that you told me was a little bit like a baby giraffe. He wasn't sure exactly what to do with it, but I think Drew's figured it out.
I would say that's a very fair statement. And the fact that he's kicked 127 extra points in his career here is pretty good proof of that, I think.
Do you ever get bored watching your offense, or you hurry up, let's go, I want to get out there?
Sometimes in those blowout games, it's me not really. I'm just glad I get to go on the field, because it's more boring when we don't score. But thank goodness with our offense and just really the overall team having all those opportunities to get out there and just again do my job, not really have to. It's also good when we're up a lot, and I don't really have to stress about.
We talked about this a minute ago. You've never had to tackle anybody.
No, not yet. Hopefully that will stay like that.
Well, we'll see if that happens. Friday night, Friendship closes out the regular season, 7 p.m. Friday at Peoples Bank Stadium on Double T 97.3 FM. We'll be back on the High School Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.